Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Masochists Marathon. So this episode, I wanted to start it off by having a look at red science, because I noticed the assembler we've got making cogs isn't quite getting all the way to the end, and the last two assemblers aren't always running. Partly because the assembler just wasn't getting enough iron and the two fast inserters were working constantly, so it may be fixed by the capacity upgrades, but I don't really want to wait that long. And plus, because the green science assemblers are slightly longer than the red, I thought it would make the whole layout look a lot neater if we just add another cog assembler. So that gets them all running eventually. It is now using a full yellow belt of iron, so I really do need to look at expanding the smelting, but to be honest, that's not something I'm going to do anytime soon, because really, to expand the smelting, I really need more iron coming in, and to get more iron, we need to expose that elusive iron patch up to the northwest. And as I babbled on last episode about so much, my plan for that has now been lasers. Last episode I was going to wait and ask everyone what they thought of the idea, and then wait, see what the response was before I recorded the next episode. But this week I happen to have a lot more time in my hands than I usually do, and I'm quite excited about this series, so I'm getting quite ahead on episodes at the moment. I've just uploaded the last episode, which isn't going to go out until tomorrow. So I am getting ahead a bit, but it is nice to be a little bit ahead. But I have decided on my plan. I did cock up the placement of the iron gear wheel assembler. I forgot to take the output away that was for the red science pack assembler. And we get a load of cogs on the science pack. So I have to clear that belt up manually and put those packs back in the lab. So yes, I'm pretty much decided on my laser approach. So we get laser turrets researched. The quicker I get the iron and spend it on researching them and making them, the better, really, because once I have the laser turrets, so long as they don't get blown up, all I need to fuel them is power. And the ammunition costs me nothing, because I just get the feeling that I'm going to go and use a huge amount of ammunition if I go and use turrets, both in upgrading the turrets in research and actually making the ammunition itself. So one of the things I wanted to do after last episode is finish off setting up the coal depot. So we got all the outputs sorted out, and I just have to reverse these coal belts. Initially, I was going to take it through that forest and have it nice and straight up to the power, but then I realised it's going to take too long, and I kind of want to get on with this episode's goal, which is really preparations for making laser turrets and getting to that iron patch. I want to get to that iron patch as soon as we can. And I did ramble on about it a lot last episode. I just think lasers are a lot better way to go than piercing ammo, because I don't think I could do it without piercing, and lasers are pretty much just as effective. So that's really my thinking in it. I'm still waiting for that episode to get out to hear anything about it. Here, I kind of cock up the placement of belts, and a bit of coal ends up on the copper belt. My inventory's full, so I don't have any space to pick it up, so I have to run, get rid of some coal in the power, and then run back and pick it up. To be honest, it wouldn't break the system, really, because the steel smelters do use coal. I just think it would maybe block the end of one of the belts. I don't know. It would be fun to find out, really. One of the things I noticed last episode is there is a biter base popped up right near the power, so I need to go and deal with that at some point. The pollution from the power isn't quite reaching it yet, so it's not triggering any attacks. But as soon as we have the steam laid out that I have planned for laser turrets, we definitely need to make sure that gets cleaned up. So this episode, I want to get on with oil processing. So we need to go and access that one single oil well. We'll see how that goes. But on our way, we noticed the tiny little iron patch is finally depleted. So that didn't last very long at all. So we come and take that out, taking the power poles out as well to keep it nice and neat and tidy. And we can reuse those somewhere else, as well as the belt. So I'm glad I just shut this belt down to the outpost, because it really didn't take that long at all. So to start using this rail as a main line, because this was only originally set up just for iron, I'll need to move the station off the main line, so we'll have to create a proper station and move that down. So I disconnect the input of the iron so the train can deplete all those chests and I don't have to manually empty it out. So we take the rail across to the oil well, because it's not very far away, and we create the one single oil derrick. One thing I didn't mention last episode, which I assume has been a part of the picker update and isn't in the full vanilla game, is the new power symbol. It's a lot smaller, it's round, and a lot less in your face. It's a lot less irritating when you're laying an area out before connecting the power. It is less obvious, but personally, I actually prefer it. I quite like it. It looks nice and neat. It's not too in your face, but you still notice where there isn't enough power. So I kind of like that. I might go and check to see if it's in the full vanilla or picker though, because I'm interested to know if the devs have actually done that. So we get the station laid out on the opposite side because the track's a little bit too close to the derrick to do it this side, and I don't want to bring it out round it, and I'm trying to keep a generic station layout, so that's 2 track spaces away from the main line. I know that's a tiny bit pernickety, but oh well. It does mean I have to put the tank right down near the oil derrick. It won't fit at the top or at the side with the way I've laid it. Maybe if I moved it across, it would. I'm only bothering to put 1 tank on this train at the moment because that's going to be more than enough for a single derrick. We only really need a 4 tanker train when we access that huge oil deposit just southwest of me here. I can't wait to access that because that is going to be a mammoth supply of oil. So we get that laid out. We're going to leave that pump to fill the train up. It's going to take absolutely ages for that 1 derrick to fill a train. So I get that kicked off straight away while we start to lay this station out where it should really be. Yeah, by the time we even access that train, it's still not completely full. So yeah, I really wanted to get that running as early as possible. We moved the station over slightly a bit. I probably could have moved it over more because I don't really like how the splitter ends up, but we leave it anyway. We're just waiting for the factory to finish using up that iron. I rebuilt this whole exit just for 1 bit of track as well. It's kind of a bit mental, but it just shows the extent of my fussiness or pickiness with laying stuff out. But we get this station laid out. I'm still using wooden chests just to avoid using as much steel as I can. I know I'm not being very efficient in certain places where aesthetics are taking over, but I kind of like having wooden chests for a kind of purpose. Well, I say kind of purpose, you know what I mean? It's kind of nice. But the only way I really get this splitter in is like this, and I really don't like it. It really does upset me quite a lot having it like this. I almost contemplated completely changing the entire iron depot to have the tracks running horizontally instead of vertically, just so that that fits in nicer. But I really don't have time for that this episode. That'll be something I'll do another episode, or I'll just leave it because this outpost isn't going to last much longer. I think I checked at some point in the episode. We're down to 600k, so that's 200k gone already. We also use the map function just to have a quick look over the factory, just to see how things are going. We're smelting those 2 columns at full speed at the moment. I'm not really going to expand that until I'm comfortable we're going to get another area. The only expense having another smelting area is the cost of building the smelters themselves. We do need the iron either way. We're going to be using it up for research. Thinking about it, I could actually have used those stone furnaces I ended up shooting, doing a couple of columns with those because, yeah, I've already made them and they don't take any iron to make. So, well, I suppose there's the inserters, but yeah, I could debate that for a while. But until I reveal another iron outpost, I'm going to be as lenient as I can with my resources. I'm going to keep rambling about this to try and justify myself. But I just think lasers are a good way to go. Yes, it's going to be expensive researching it and getting the tech to make them good enough. But once I have them, so long as I have the power, the ammunition is essentially free, or at least it's not iron, it's coal. I'm going to try and not ramble about that too much this episode. But yes, the next thing we want to get done is taking the track up north of the bus for where I want to have the oil processing area. And I wasn't originally planning on taking the track up here. The whole depot was going to be on its own, and the track was going to go up further to the east. But I looked at it on the map, and this was kind of the ideal place to have it. The only downside, or the only bad thing I can think of having it here, is it's very close to the starting uranium patch. But to be honest, once that's mined, it's gone. So it's not the end of the world. But this whole next thing does end up being a bit of a faff and a fail, but we'll go into it as it happens. But yeah, I did fiddle around with this quite a bit. I wasn't really happy with how smoothly it went, and it ended up taking a lot more time than it should have. But I just saw out the entrance and exit to the depot. I know I don't need trains coming in from this direction yet, but it kind of just satisfies my need to make sure things are laid out properly and to show how they work. We've got plenty of room in that depot for more stations, but to be honest, it can expand out in the direction of coal if it needs to. And it can also expand this way up to the main track. And then if it ever needs to be bigger than that, then I'm screwed and I'm going to have to come up with something else. We might have to move the track over. I don't really know. Once again, I have to do the file blueprints. But this is the last time I'm going to lay them out, I promise. I remember to save them into the blueprints book this time. A load of those are the blueprints that are in there are from when I was doing the wave defense stuff, because it's really handy when you fail a level to take blueprints of some of the stuff you did build, and then you can go and place it out ready for your next attempt. It's quite handy. Did feel a little bit cheaty, but hey, the devs designed it that way. They gave you a roboport right at the start. So we have to move forward to let that train out. I come down and tidy these poles up because they have to be in the tracks. I couldn't quite leave that for another day. So we come and tidy that up and get those in, and it lines up nicely with the power poles down there. It doesn't actually end up saving us any, but oh well, they're nice and straight, and that makes me happy having tidy power poles. But we did cut off the power to the satellite, and talking about stray poles, I have to come and relay those, but that does save us some poles, thankfully. We just check on that biter base just there, just to make sure the pollution isn't getting too close. But I think next episode I really am going to have to sort that out, because I think next episode I may relay that steam column out with the way I want to have it. I've not tried it before, although I did do a test on a sandpit map, and I put a picture of it on Reddit, and the main thing that everyone seemed to point out was the fact that I was using radars to use the power, and I could have just gone and installed the mod that gives you the accumulator that just draws all the power. But I was just doing a quick test, almost completely vanilla, and to be honest, I wanted to have the ability to draw less than the full amount of power and also the full amount. So I guess that's my argument for it. Not really a very good argument, but yes, I did put a picture of it up on Reddit. It's hopefully going to work. It seemed to work in my tests, and I think I'm going to maybe see how much resource it's going to take me to build, but I may build 2 columns of 1 pumps, 20 boilers, and 40 engines. So I come and have a look at the next thing to research, as we've just completed laser turrets. So we have everything we need to make some laser turrets. To begin with, I do try and avoid doing any more military science. I go for toolbar for some reason, mainly because I started the episode off with being a bit claustrophobic with my inventory, so that will clear up a bit more space. So I take the track up as high as I dare to leave as much room for smelters as I can, but to be honest, smelters can pass over the track fairly easily. That's not going to be too much of a problem, but I'll be surprised if we come up this high. But I have to come and deal with this biter base here, which the radars hadn't completely scanned. It seems pretty easy, but this base is sort of sat on its own. The problem with the edge of the starting area is it's just pure biter bases. So while I'm trying to clear one biter base, all the ones next to it are all going to join in as well, which is why I'm so reluctant to try and push out that area even now, and hence why I'm going for lasers, which will be just as effective as turrets with piercing ammo, I think. I've not actually looked at the stats, so that's merely just an assumption. I don't actually know that. But plus, once I've got the laser turrets, like I keep saying, the ammunition is power. It's not going to be iron, which is what we're going to run out of fairly soon if we don't uncover that patch. So I had the rail pretty much lying along where I want it to head for any of the north or northwest deposits we set up in the future. Hopefully there's going to be lots of them in the future with our poor patch settings, poor resource settings. And we come down and grab a load of resources to have a look at setting up the oil processing, because if I can get some sulfuric acid this episode, that means next episode we can get some batteries and hopefully start producing some laser turrets. But I noticed the supply of iron is running a bit low, and that'll be down to our outpost has finally depleted the contents of those wooden chests. So we come down, take out the old return track, move the train back out of the way so it can actually access this station. We begin to take out the old one, copy and paste the settings from the old one to the new one, and we have successfully now moved the iron depot off the main line, which can then allow the oil train through as well. So we set that up, we send the train in to finish filling up, but it is going to need some inserter arms to finish filling up, so we get those in as well. So that's the iron outpost all moved. We can continue to focus on getting the oil processing done. Hopefully we get it all laid out this episode. Although I say hopefully, I know it's actually been done, but I'm trying to do the post commentary in time with where the episode's at. So I'm now thinking we've got everything we need to be able to create the resources to make some laser turrets. We still have to do the oil processing, but yeah, we've still got a good 500k iron in that outpost. So I think the next best thing to do is to get those laser turrets upgraded, because they're going to need to be as effective as possible. And the more damage we do for the laser turrets, the more efficient they can use the energy we'll provide them with as well. I do think it's wise to get some accumulators set up. Again, they are going to use a lot of resources, but we have plenty, and we don't really want to be running out of power while we're firing those lasers. So as we've got batteries, we may as well get some accumulators set up before we go for the big push. I don't know what episode the big push is going to land on, but I want to get on with it quite soon. I do have a bit more time today. I may even sit down and record the next episode. So I start laying out the oil depot. I start laying it out with the mindset of having 4 tanker wagons, but to be honest, I only really need 1 at the moment, and I can upgrade this later on. So we get that laid out so we can actually bring the train in. We rename it to crude depot to begin with, but then I decided to change it to oil. We called it crude in our Bob's Angels just because I thought it was a funny little pun, but it's not really that funny at all. It's terrible. So this episode, or this series, we're going to call it oil depot and oil 1. I try and have a look on the map to see how far off the tanker is from being full, but the radar doesn't quite reach. So I will need to get a radar in there at some point so we can keep an eye on it, but we'll do that probably next episode. So we start crafting a load of underground pipe because we're going to be using loads of it doing the oil processing. So that is one of the aspects of trying to go for lasers this early. It is going to be very iron hungry on the pipe side of things. I try and remember which side of the oil refinery the water goes, because I can't quite remember. I think I've got it right, but we'll find out when it comes to it. And we get the achievement for sending a train on a very long route. So we start the dreaded process of laying out the oil processing area. Not dreaded because it's complicated. I'm totally cool with the processes of how this all works. More because I'm so fussy about things being laid out nice and neatly, and I never get this area nice and tidy. And plus, because I'm just doing a couple of refineries now, primarily just for batteries, I need to lay it out in such a way that it's designed in a way that it's nice and easily expandable. The same with the oil depot. That's just a quick layout. I need to make it so that there's waiting for trains and a bit neater. So I will be moving that at some point. And this area, I wasn't quite happy with it afterwards, but I was running out of recording time. We were getting close to the hour, and I at least wanted to produce some laser turrets next episode. So yeah, this area isn't going to be final. I'll probably do it again, so I'm a bit happy with it, but this was a bit rushed. That's my excuse for it not being very good. So we have a look at getting some water in because we're going to need it for sulfuric acid, and there is no water nearby at all, but the closest bit of water is north of us. It's a tiny bit closer than over to the east, so I come and shove it in here. I get a radar in as well, just so we can keep an eye on this area. Any new bases trying to sneak past or destroy those pipes there would prevent any production of sulfuric acid. But we get the water pipes down. Again, the underground pipes costing a huge amount of iron pipes, and in turn iron itself, obviously. I've also laid out some space here ready for cracking, just so we've got enough room there. But now I'm looking at this, doing the post commentary. I want to do this area completely differently. So at some point, I'm going to have to deplete it of all the resources, make sure we use it all and don't waste anything. And then, did I waste some crude there? I think it pushes it into the other tank. I really hope it does. I needed that other tank down here for buffers for the light and heavy oil, because we need some sort of a buffer, because we're only going to be using petroleum for the sulfuric acid to begin with. In fact, thinking about that, that's going to be a really big stumbling block. We're going to have to buffer loads of the heavy and light to get enough petroleum to make batteries, and I can't research cracking without blue science, and I can't do blue science without plastic, so maybe I'll have to get on with that quite soon. I don't know. We'll work out when I come and do next episode, but we lay out with a load of space for cracking. But yeah, I've just worked out in my head actually how I want that area, so I'm going to completely change that all at some point. That is something I'd be quite tempted to do in between episodes, but I did say I'm not going to do anything between episodes, so I shall resist. But we just need a bit of sulfuric acid to get some laser turrets, so we're just going to concentrate on that for now. And I sit and ponder about the ratios quite a bit. It's 5 sulfuric acid per every second, 5 sulfur for every cycle of sulfuric acid, and it makes 2 sulfur every second in the machine. So in my head, that's 2.5 machines per sulfuric acid chemical plant. So if I put down 5 chemical plants of sulfur, that should be enough for 2 sulfuric acid machines. But for some reason, my head gets stuck, and I think that I need 6. But I actually only need 5. It's 1.5 per machine. So I will change this again next episode. I'll lay this out properly. I think this is pretty much overkill for the amount of petroleum we're going to get to start with. So yeah, I was just wanted to try and work out the ratios and how I'm going to lay it out, because I've always had an issue with the throughput of sulfur just because of the fact you need so much of it. I wanted to see if this layout works. I've never actually tried it before. There's probably a much better one out there somewhere that someone may point me to, but I wanted to have a go at it on my own and see what we could lay out. So the next thing we pick to research is some accumulators, because that is going to be handy for the laser turrets. So that problem has just hit me doing the post commentary about the fact that we're going to have to buffer light and heavy to get enough petroleum to make enough laser turrets and accumulators. I may have to do blue science before we do the big push. I don't know. This may be a point where it's handy to get some feedback in the comments, but I really feel like I want to go and record the next episode straight away. So we get some inputs of iron, which we need for the sulfuric acid. We also get some copper as well for batteries, because I want to get batteries produced up here. We may as well get them done in that area and then brought back down to their line on the bus. So I've just done a bit of math to just try and decide whether I should go and research cracking and do all of that before I go and do the big push to be more efficient with our use of crude, or whether to just go straight for turrets, because of course blue science is going to use a whole load of petroleum for the plastic, so we'd have to put off the production of laser turrets so we have enough petroleum to do blue. I haven't even done the math for how much petroleum we'd need for blue science, but my maths here was focusing on iron. So we'd need 300 blue science packs, not to mention the 600 red and green science packs, because they're double for cracking. 300 blue science packs, which takes 74 iron per pack, which comes to a total of 22,000 iron, which to be honest we have access to, but that's a whole lot of time before we can actually push out to the other patch. And is all that worth it just for cracking? I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I'm swaying more towards pushing out first and doing blue later, because we're going to need a lot of crude, and if we can push out to that iron patch okay with lasers, then that means we can push out to those other patches. So I think I've kind of made my decision there. We also have a look at evolution, which is at now 0.5. It's getting more ridiculous, and to be honest, that's more of justification for me to go towards lasers and not throw all those resources into ammunition, because to be honest, at some point we could run out of ammunition very easily. So not to ramble any longer, we have some sulfuric acid ready for batteries next episode, but that's going to be all we have time for. I do hope you have enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and please do come and join me in the next episode. Bye bye.